Hi, this is a tutorial on how to use Anki. This video will mostly be geared towards medical students and how to use it to study for board exams, particularly step 1 and step 2. So the advantage of Anki is that it uses the principle of spaced repetition. That means that it will show you cards that you don't know as well more frequently than cards that you know very well. And it is meant to be used over a long period of time, although it can be used in different modes to cram for things the next day or whatnot. But the whole point of it is really for spaced repetition. So to download Anki, you can go to apps.ankiweb.net. Download it for Mac or PC, or there is also an app for it which syncs to your browser or your computer, your desktop version. So you can make your own decks, or you can get shared decks or decks that other people have made. So to find shared decks, you click here. This takes you to a website where you can download them. So you can search for anything really. So we'll search medicine. And this is telling us how many cards there are, and this is ratings. So let's find one that has not as many cards. Okay, here's one that only has 21. So I will click this and download it here. Okay, and it just added to my deck here, preventive medicine. So you'll see here that I have many different decks, and this is actually not how Anki is designed. It's really designed for you to have one deck that you make for yourself, and then to separate out categories by tags. And the reason why is that you're probably, the whole idea of Anki is that you're going to be studying, as a medical student, you're going to be studying a lot of information in a very short amount of time, cram for it, and then move on and do the same thing for a different topic. So the point of Anki is that it's giving you a tool to remember the things that you're otherwise likely to forget. So when you first make this, really try to make one deck and separate everything out, separate your different topics out by tags, and I'll show you how to make tags in a moment. So the one I just downloaded was called This Preventive Medicine. You see here that there's 20, this new means I've never used them before, and that means these are the cards that I need to do today. And green here means these are cards that I have already learned, meaning I have gone through them, I've seen them before, and I've reached the point where Anki thinks that I know these cards well, and this is just telling me that it's bringing them back into my fold. It's saying, okay, these two cards in this family medicine deck here, you've already learned them, but it's time to see them again because you haven't seen them in a while. These new ones here there's a setting that I probably have on that says that every day I want to do 195 cards from this deck. That's a lot, but that's what that means. So when we click onto this deck, Preventive Medicine, we see here that there's 21 new. Learning means that I haven't gotten to the point where the cards, so it'll show up when I'm studying them. Like if I don't know them that well, it'll become a learning. If it's very, very easy, it'll get out of this pile, and it won't be shown at all in this number. To review means I've seen it before, and it's going to get back into this study pile. So like if I had done this deck, 10 days ago, and there were a couple that, well, let's say that I had like 300 cards here, and I was only going to do 20 a day, there would be many that I did in previous days that would show up here, the ones that I have previously learned. But since this is a new deck, there's nothing there. So we'll start studying, and we'll see how exactly these numbers change. Okay, so this is asking me breast cancer screening. So if you know, like, oh, when does someone need to be screened for breast cancer? So you should think of the answer, and then when you know the answer or you don't know the answer, click Show Answer. And then there's actually every button should have a little should show you what the shortcut is if you highlight over it. So here it says hit the space bar. So we can hit the space bar, that will show it to us. And now it says start at 40 to 50 years, every 2 years, blah, blah, blah. So let's say that if I knew this very well, I could click Easy. That will mean that it won't show me this until 4 days from now, this card again. If I click Good, that means I sort of know it, but I really want to go over it again. It's not an easy card for me. If this is, if I didn't know it at all, I want to click Again because I want to see this within 1 minute. And so you can scroll, you can see there's shortcuts on the screen, so you can click the number 2 for good, 1 for again, and 3 for easy. You can also click the space bar for good as well. That's the default. So I just clicked good on that last card. And now it became, now instead of 21 new cards, there's 1 that I'm learning. That means that in the next 10 minutes, this card will show up again for me. But there's still 20 new cards that I haven't seen yet. And then I started out with 0 that I had previously learned that would be back in my fold, so that number is never going to change. So here we have the next card, breast cancer prophylaxis, when multiple, blah, blah, blah. So we can click the space bar. Oh, okay, SERMs. So that's asking about a treatment there. If I didn't know this at all, I would click again. And that means it will show it to me again in 1 minute. So, do you see what happened to our pile here? We lost another new card. That makes sense. But this number has changed to 3 because it means that I will see the card that I just did, not once more, but twice more. I will see it in the next 1 minute, and then after that, I will see it again in the next 10 minutes. So that's how you get the number 3 from that. So essentially there's 3 steps to every card, so you'll see it that many times. So you'll keep going this, blah, blah, blah. If I knew this, the answer to this, I thought it was very easy, poof, it goes away, and then it's not shown anywhere in here because this is what I'm doing now. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my decks here, and so this is all for today. I'm still learning these, so it's updated how many I still have to do for today. So that will be like for the next time. Yeah, so it says to review learning. Okay, if I want to go back to make my own deck, or if I want to add cards, if you just click add, it will go to your default deck. I think my default deck is my main deck, or you can make your own new deck. But as I said again, try not to make your own new deck. So I'll click add. And it thinks that my main deck is the last deck I use, but I'm going to do my main deck. And then there's many different types of cards you can use. I'm going to show you the basic card and then also something called clause. So for instance, what's really good about Anki, if you're going to make your own cards, is that let's say you're going through USMLE, you're going through first aid. There's a lot of first aid that's just pure memorization. So for instance, we're looking at autoantibodies. Hopefully you want to understand all these disorders and why each is corresponding to each other. Well, maybe this is a bad example of that. But purely knowing, that, I don't know, that this antibody is associated with this disease can get you an answer correct like immediately. So that can really save you a lot of time. So the more you really know, the better you're going to be on these tests. So, you know, we can just make, you say like, oh, what is this autoantibody associated with? Poof, you know. And then here we can make a tag for, these are all the tags that I already have. We can make a tag that we'll call it immunology, which I already have one there. Okay, so we've added that one. Now, let's say that I want to make a different type of card. The very one that a lot of people use is called close. And this is good for, let's say you have someone already made notes for you, and you know, it's a really fast way of making cards. So here I have like a book. You know, let's say that I want to, like, here's a whole sentence. Like, I want to copy. I can just copy the whole sentence. Let's just copy this whole thing. And since it's closed, it's meant for you to remove some of it and use that as the blank, like a fill in the blank. So let's say access to this, well, let's say over blank. What is this city called? So it says C1, that means card 1. So you just made one card and this is the blank. This is what you have to fill in. Let's say I wanted to do 2 in here. I could say Bay of blank. And now it means that this one comes up first, and this is the second one. So these are essentially 2 cards. If I want these both to come up at the same time, I can click this, and now it's essentially only 1 card. So I will call this history, and I'll add it to my main deck anyways. Okay, so I'll get out of this. I'll go back to my main deck. There's only 4 cards in here, so I'll show you what that looks like. So, okay. Nope. Okay, here's the card. Blah, 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 blah. So I had this being 1 card, so these should show up at the same time. Done. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to organize the cards that you do have. So I'm not happy with the way that my deck looks. So I'm going to combine some of these decks and organize them by tag. So I'm going to click Browse and go to Poison, for instance. And you'll notice here that they all have the poison tag on them, hopefully. Yeah. So they all have this tag poison. So it doesn't make sense for these all to be in their own deck. So I'm going to try to delete this deck poison and move all of these cards into my default deck, which I'm going to call my main deck. Great. And now they're moved. So I can get out of this. I'm going to go to decks, poison. I no longer have any cards in there. So I'm going to delete this deck. If I can. Yeah. Delete. Gone. I'm going to do the same thing with Psych. This is a one that I made myself as well. So Browse. Psych. They all have the Psych tag. Great. So I'm going to click all of them, change deck, move it to my main deck. Great. Now I can delete Psych. And so you can do the same thing with multiple decks.